my experience has been that when you tell a colonel, we're not going to do that, you usually get a formation soon afterward saying,
Yes,
you will,
right.
and if you don't, here's the consequences.
Article
and that
15
never happened.
and all that, right?
Yeah, Article 15s, and we're going to reduce you in rank. That never happened.
Right.
So again, without knowing, I have to believe in my heart that he went, yeah, we're not doing that. Don't worry. It doesn't matter what they say. We're not doing this.
Well, I think you got a good point that a negative like that, the formation didn't happen.
Yeah.
The hammer didn't drop on you.
No.
And so,
nothing was discussed in any formation, or even, hey, May and you guys come along and let's talk about it. None of that ever happened.
So that's a good sign.
Very good sign,
it's a good
I
sign.
think.
So I guess to be clear to the people listening and watching, military officers, because of their political situation, a lot of times might not articulate. They're a little more savvy, I guess, than us enlisted guys.
Correct.
We'll just wear our hearts on our sleeve and say whatever we feel like.
That's right.
But the officers are probably a little more clever, and they'll just quietly not do things.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
They'll do it not out in front of everything. They'll do it in meetings and quiet discussions about this maybe isn't the right thing.
Right.
And they have to. I've seen it in my career that they may even say that they're on board with something, but they can't vocalize it the way we can.
Right. Unless the push comes to shove, they might have to.
Oh, sure, and I have seen that. I've seen in Iraq where a commander was pushed to a point where, there was something dangerous going on, and he flat out said, "I'm not doing it.
Right.
Back off. I don't care what grade you are. I don't care that you're 1 star.
For the safety of his
Back
men.
off. My guys aren't doing that."
Right.
It wasn't with our group, but I've seen it.
Now you deployed to Iraq in 2003.
Yes.
Right after just immediately after the invasion, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yep. And you were there for how long?
I was only there till early July. I came home for some medical issues, and because we had so many people over there doing nothing, they said, stay home. And there was a group of us that thought we were going to be home on a 2-week emergency leave to take care of medical issues and go back. And they said, no, you're staying home, which was kind of a bummer because all our buddies were there. But I wasn't there too very long. But
now, at the time, you were a Utah police officer?
At the time, I was with I was a corrections officer down in Salt Lake County.
At the jail there?
At the jail.
Okay. Okay. So you swore an oath both in your military service and also for the as a
correctional officer,
right? So to defend the Constitution of the United States and also Utah.
And also Utah. That's right. That's right.
So just to get a little bit more background on you, just tell the folks kind of how you feel about your oath. And you never heard about Oath Keepers told you yesterday, correct?
Till yesterday, and I'm going, why don't I know about these guys? But
but your oath means something to you already. Correct?
Definitely.
Right.
It means something to me, and I have to give the due respect to the person that actually got me recognizing what that oath meant. A few months after everybody came home from Iraq at a drill, one of the guys in our unit, I could hear him talking, and I liked what he had to say most of the time, so I went in and I heard him talking about 95% of the military. Well, we all take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, but 95% of the military doesn't even know what the Constitution is. And I looked at myself and went, I'm in the 95%. I'm wrong. I need to know what I swore to uphold and defend. So from that point, I started really researching and studying the Constitution. I carry one in my wallet with me everywhere I go now so that I can break it out and look at it when I have downtime. I can quote it to people when they have questions. I can tell them, different things. My favorite class when I was just going to college recently was a political science class that dealt with the Constitution and where it came from and what the founding fathers had. And I take my oath seriously now, which.
So your buddy woke you up.
He woke me up. It was like getting hit in the back of the head. Hey, time to get up and start fighting for what's real.
Right.
And I woke up, and the more I read it, I went, holy cow, what am I doing to actually make this, to let people know? And at that point was when my wife and I kind of decided, homeschool our kids so they can learn the Constitution, learn about our founding fathers. And that's when I started being extremely vocal about the Constitution within my National Guard unit.
Right.
My buddies joke that if they ever want to get me riled up, just mention one thing about the Constitution and I'm talking the rest of the day.
So you became what your buddy had been for you, as a person to go wake up other guys.
Yes.
And this is back in 2003?
This was in 04.
04?
This was in 2004.
That's what
he since left the unit for other better career opportunities that didn't allow him to come and drill anymore. And so I've kind of taken his place.
Right.
Where if somebody mentions the Constitution, we're going to have a discussion about it, and you're not going to get away.
And so that was
quickly.
so these discussions were already ongoing before Katrina.
Yes, I believe they were. I was fairly new. After coming home from Iraq, I went to this new unit, and I lived down in Salt Lake, 100 miles away, so I was coming up only on weekends. There were discussions going on already about different aspects of the Constitution. It usually involved the Second and Fourth Amendments.
Right, things that you would be impacting directly during civil disorders.
Yeah, and a lot of the conversation revolved around, isn't it interesting that in Iraq every household is required to have a gun, and here they've talked about taking our guns away.
That's a weird contrast.
We're going, wait a sec, we have in our Constitution, we're guaranteed, but in that little community, every community hierarchy, the mayor or whoever it is, has said every household will have a weapon.
Have an AK, right?
Yeah, an AK, and every man above the age of 17 will also have an individual weapon. So every household, so maybe one there for mom and the kids if they're alone, plus every adult male. And they're talking about taking ours away when we have a constitutional guarantee.
The Iraqis do this for what reason?
Security.
Because they know that without it,
they had a regime that would come in and do whatever they want. They had to bury religious pamphlets and things that they had because they were afraid if they got seen with them that they'd lose their freedoms.
Because they were Shiite, Sunni-dominated country.
Yeah, if and even sometimes if you were a Shia in a Sunni area, you had to hide your stuff that showed that you were a Shia.
Right.
You had to hide that stuff, and that's their culture. And so when the regime was gone, they said, okay, now we're going to protect ourselves because that could happen again.
Right.
So, and probably another part of it was, plus we have other nations here. If something happens, we should be able to defend ourselves too, which I can't disagree with totally. I don't like the fact that they can shoot back at me, but I'm not going to shoot civilians anyway, so who cares?
Right. And they've got insurgents too.
Yeah, and they've got the bad guys that want to take them out. So I don't have an issue at all with them having them. I loved it when I was over there. Were you a little nervous when you went into places knowing there was a weapon? Sure. But when you got in there and realized they were law-abiding people, you didn't care. It was just like when I was in New Orleans when the guy at Cooter Brown's showed me the AR. I went, cool.
Or all those 30 guys standing on the lawn.
With their shotguns. You roll up and you go, hey, those are my type of people because they're willing to defend what's theirs. They're willing to uphold what their constitutional
And it's interesting that they were initially nervous about you guys. And so did you have a few discussions with them about their situation, about how they felt about you?
We did. It took a while for them to open up. And of course, every group has a leader, whether voted on, nominated, or he just turns out to be the leader. And the guy that usually ran the group and did a lot of the talking to us, everybody talked, but when it got into discussions of more formal matter of this is what's going on here, or we're going over to this guy's house because this has happened, there was always the one guy that came and talked to us.
Who was that one guy for that group?
I don't remember his name. I can see his face and his body right now, and the one thing I remember about him was he had really thick camouflage suspenders, and he wore them all the time. And
an old Cajun guy? Or?
Yeah, an older guy. He was probably, he was probably late 30s, early 40s.
Was he a vet?
Not too much older. I don't know. We never got into that. It's kind of weird. Some of the guys we talked to told us they were vets. This guy I never got involved with. If I were to guess, I'd say probably. Just what acronyms he used.
Once he realized you weren't bad guys there to disarm them, what did he have to say about that?
He'd see what he had to. It was more his actions. When he'd see the Humvee rolling down the street, he'd wave us over. Hey, you guys have enough to eat tonight? You guys good? I mean, they were taking better care of us than we were them as far as food was concerned. We were getting jambalaya and all this stuff from them. But
what was the nickname for you that they had?
They called me Sergeant Big Guy, and they called my buddy Sergeant Tree Trunk because he was taller than me. So
Sergeant Big Guy, huh?
Sergeant Big Guy. And it was in that Cajun accent, so it was really funny when they called us over because I didn't know what he was saying at first. I had to get close enough and get the dialect going, but you know, good group of guys, and like I say, they were there to help. Once they figured out we were helping them, then they started helping us, telling us that car doesn't belong here. I've never seen that car in this neighborhood before.
Right.
What can we do? Well, I'll call the police officer and he'll check it out.
I hate to use the dirty M word, but they were basically acting as an ad hoc militia.
Yes.
To the citizens. Right?
Yes.
Right.
And
taking care of each other.
Yeah. And you know, that's the way I looked at them. That they were their town's militia. Maybe not a state militia, but they were actually acting as that town's militia.